What's up YouTube, Dal here from Zephyr War Games, and today I am bringing you another new version of Darkworld, and this time it involves no dangers! That's right, we take out the element of luck from the deck and we put it down to player compatibility. Now, a lot of you actually said, oh, I really want to cut the dangers, I keep getting sniped or they're not discarding the right cards. Well, this build is with 0 dangers and it's all about the cards you play to control exactly what gets discarded. The only card you play that will not control what you get discarded is dragged down to the grave. However, the way you should be playing that is you should be only activating it when you have set your hand up that it doesn't matter what your opponent chooses to discard, you will gain a huge advantage from it. So, with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe. If you get this video up to at least 50 likes in the first 24 hours, I will bring you the PK control version of this deck as well, and go from there. So with all of that out of the way, we're going to dive headfirst into the profile. It pretty much uses the same structure as the rest. There is no build, in my opinion, that should ever really be playing less than 3 Rainbow, 3 Grapha, and 3 Genta with 3 Snow. So these are the ones that I would always advise no matter what you do, you max out on. I've already said this in previous profiles, but these are just your consistency cogs. These are the ones that search everything, these are the ones that give you draw power, these are the ones that recycle, and especially in this version, we're actually going for more rank 4 utilities than anything else. Continuing on, as I've done with my previous profiles, 2 silver and 2 brow as well. The new cards I've included into this version is 2 beige and 1 cerulean. Now the reason we've done this is because you're actually going to control when you discard and what you discard, meaning that you've got more control of getting cerulean to the graveyard to your opponent's field. You've got more control over beige being discarded. That will then unlock more rank 4 utilities for you, and it just gives you a couple more options. So with the dangers, and like I've said, because you're using the replacement spells, which I'll show you a little bit later on, but here's a quick preview now, you're using replacement spells in opposed to the dangers, you're not going to get as much board presence, which means you need to maximize the effects of all of the discards that you trigger, ideally all of these, which is why we've included these 3 cards now in this one, and beige is probably more so something that a lot of people aren't playing or considering, but because we want to go rank 4 control and we also want to be able to get into our rank 4 monsters like Daguerre's to increase more discard opportunities for us, that's why you're going to be playing 2. So that's pretty much it for the Dark Worlds. Relatively standard up to this point here. Cerulean is deck dependent in my opinion, but it's still very, very good for the deck. And then beige is entirely down to this version. Like, I personally wouldn't be playing beige in a danger version, and I wouldn't be playing it in the PK version either. Moving on to the other monsters that we play, again, pretty standard this one. I'm still playing triple Salamander in this version because he is technically a controlled danger. He is a card that allows you to choose what gets discarded. And the best thing about this is if you open up beige, he is a 1 card or technically a 2 card combo into any rank 4 you want. So you activate Catalyzer, Catalyzer discards beige, beige summons itself back from being discarded, Salamander's already summoned to the board, that's an instant rank 4 there. On top of that as well, he can also get all of your bigger guys in board. He can trigger the effects of Snow for a search, Rainbow for a search, anything like that. I'm still playing the Tour Guide package because, again, as you can see, there is no normal summon engine in this deck at all. I don't really want to be normal summoning my dangers. I want to be discarding them through the card effects and being able to get as much advances as possible. So my normal summon of Tour Guide, yes, there's a huge chance it will be Ashed, Imperm, Veiled, you name it. That is not really a big issue because you've baited out a hand trap, and the idea is that you get to Sangan, straight away you've got a Link 2 or a rank 3 play there if you want it, and it gets you the Neko Main King. And because we're not playing dangers, it doesn't matter how early you get to the Neko Main King, it just means that you're trying to build up to the fusion and skip your opponent's turn, comes back to you, and by that point you would have already set up either a very powerful board that they can't break, or you've already set up enough graveyard reoccurrence, so you just flood the board with boss monsters and swoop in for an OTK. Obviously going second, this is less effective, so if you're like, you know what, I still want options to go second as well, then these 5 cards can be taken out and they can be more interruptive cards. They could be stuff like board breakers, they could be anything you want, but ideally I'm just using this as the balance because it's a normal summon that I'm not using going first or second for any other reason. Gives me a Link 2, can go into the routes to climb up into an access code if you want to play it, and everything else in between. Moving on to the spells. So now you'll start to see that where we've replaced the dangers, we've actually increased our spell count. I believe previously our spell count was about 8 or 9. Now it's going to be a huge amount more because your spells are replacing your dangers. So we're playing triple Darkworld Dealing alongside 3 Drag Down to the Grave and a card Destruction. So these are the new cards that have pretty much replaced the danger package alongside 1 Salamander and the Beiges plus the Ceruli. They're pretty much how you swap the dangers in and out. Now, the biggest issue with these is if you are going to a local environment or if you're going to an environment where Ishizu tier are absolutely everywhere, it's very, very unadvised to be playing this version. I would, at the very least, if you're like, right, well, 100% I'm not playing dangers, but I'm going into an Ishizu tier matchup, I would take out card destruction, take out the 3 Darkworld dealings, and then only play drag down because then it controls what you send from your opponent's hand, meaning that you will avoid where at all possible to trigger their effects. That's the biggest issue, and that's why the dangers are being played a lot more than these right now, but these cards will also give you benefits. Keep in mind you do let your opponent draw a card off of both of these, so it is very, very cautious. And the last thing you want to do is activate Hand Destruction when your opponent's got a Hand of Tears and they just go ham. Even though you'll go ham as well, and you can get up to like, I don't know, probably like chain 20 to be fair, because you'll go like, you'll have 5 chains ideally, or 4 chains ideally, and your opponent can end up having 5 chains. And then off the back of that as well, they'll have even more. So yeah, it's going to be a weird one. Then of course, pretty standard on this one, 2 Ascension, 2 Gate, 2 Allure, and 1 Archives. Obviously the one card we have taken out is Trading because we still have 6 targets for it. But with the Danger version, we actually had 9 targets for it, which made it a little bit more consistent and worth running. Whereas with everything like this, the Allure's covered with pretty much everything and the new additions you've added in too. One card you could arguably put in, which I did consider, was the Quick Play spell card, wherever it may be. There we go. Darkworld Puppeteering, because then it gave you another card that could also be discarded. Not to mention you get to banish it and then target one of your banished fiend monsters and add it back to your hand. So if your opponent chose to discard this, or if you discarded it or anything like that, you could add back a banish off of the Allure, which is kind of cool, but it was slightly situational. So that's pretty much it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck and show you what's changed. So pretty much standard on this one again is 2 Grapha Dragon Overlords. I'm going to blitz through everything that I've kept the same. So Underworld Goddess, Saruja, Appaloosa, Unicorn, Muckracker. New edition, I've gone with Cross Sheep. Because we're going for a little bit more of a rank 4 or board extension, Cross Sheep can actually be quite useful for you. And the cards that I've taken out in place of these is the rank 8s, because we're not going that heavy on those. And then I took out Access Code and Zelantis. Arguably, Access Code could probably be a little bit more useful in this version because you now add Earth to the equation. But even then, the Cross Sheet is just for a free extender to keep you moving. Alongside Dark the Dark Charmer and IP. The new cards that I've added in, minus an Abyss Dweller, is Zeus, Boguthka, Tornado Dragon, and Dugeres. So all of these are pretty standard. So straight away, these 3 for the rank 8s, for the rank 4s. Zeus is just because it's a little bit easier to get into these, and then use an effect or whatnot, going to Zeus, clear a board off. But the idea is that Tornado Dragon can deal with back row floodgates like D-Fissure and everything else like that. And I've already said that there are ways to kind of get to a rank 4 without committing too heavily. Daenerys obviously will trigger discard to draw effects. Baguska is one of the ones where if you get put under shift and you can't deal with it, or you're put under a D-Fissure or anything like that, you can go Baguska. It will slow pretty much all of the main meta decks down. So you look at Kashteras, you look at, definitely for the future, Flunderies as well, and Tears, it can hurt them as well. Sitting on a Baguska can be very, very effective, and that will just allow you to play out of the D-Shifter or the control element of that game state to then get back to ability where you've got hand advantage and you can start link climbing into everything you need. The one thing that I will say from this is, apart from the Fusion and Zeus, you are missing an Aggressor, so that's where Access Code will come in, and that's entirely up to you on what you would want to cut for that. Like if you go less XYZ, then you put in Access Code. If you feel that the Dark Charmer is not worth it, you can swap that for an Access Code, and it just gives you a couple of different options as well. So I wanted to make this video short, sweet and simple, but I also wanted to make it as informative as possible to show you that there are ways to play without dangers. And the best thing about this version of the build, it's actually relatively budget. Like there's no single card that is on the level of like £35 unless something has absolutely skyrocketed. But the majority, all of the Dark Worlds are in the structure deck, nice and easy. Catalyzer, I'm telling you now, 10p common, grab it while you can. And then like £4 or like £10 for your playset of tour guides. And even that is up to you. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's given you a couple of options. I just wanted to kind of show you that you could play this in a different way to you don't have to play the dangers, which I thought was kind of a cool option. And like I said, I've had a couple of comments where they're like, I really don't like dangers, and I understand that, because there are times when I'm like, ooh, that danger discard actually killed me rather than helped me. What other options do I have? And this was a version that I knew of in the past that actually has more effectiveness now. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Do like, comment, subscribe, share. Like I said at the start of the video, if you get this video up to at least 50 likes, I will bring you the Phantom Knight control version, which basically gives you the balance of front row and back row. So I'm pretty much showcasing all of the different Darkworld options that you guys have available to you, and then you can kind of pick and choose what suits your locals best, and just what suits your style of play as well. Anyway, as absolutely always, guys, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.